Today we're joined by Danny Lilker. Danny, a lot of going on in the last couple of days with the news and everything, with Anthrax and the camp reaching out to you. How long has this been in a discussion with you for with Scott and the band's management about making them reaching out to you about rejoining Anthrax, let's say?
I was actually contacted, I guess, about a month ago. I'm not sure the exact day. I could, of course, look for the particular day I got the text, but I had a lot more advance notice than the what everybody just found out a couple of days ago. It was just that's when the press release went public. So I've been, yeah, about a month because I needed some time to learn some of the material, obviously, to play it correctly and play it with authority too. You don't want to just learn it. You want to play it with confidence and, look like you're up there being metal and not like tentative. So yeah, you could say late February, early March, something like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, was there a reason given why Frank Bello wasn't able to commit to these shows?
Well, we're just saying personal reasons. It's I'm not at liberty to say, but
Okay.
tell you that Frank is fine and the picture of health and it's nothing like that, but nothing
All
I
right.
can really go into. It's not my place.
Right on.
Right.
Mhm.
How did you receive the news from the bands, and what was your initial reaction to them asking you this?
I got a text from Scott when he was in Japan on tour with Mr. Bungle. So yeah, that would have been like late February or something. And I was actually at work. I work in precision optics because I realized that playing the type of music I played for the most part wasn't lucrative enough to not have a job. But point being that yeah, I was just on a little smoke break at work at like 8:13 a.m. on a Monday or something, and I got a message from Scott going, "Do you think you'd be able to do some shows with us next month?" So yeah, it would have been the very beginning of March. And it's funny, I just looked at my boss, who's also a metalhead, but that's how I ended up working for the company, and said, "Hey, I just got asked to do some Anthrax shows next month." And he goes, "You'd be fucking crazy not to." And so I knew it would be cool there. And I said, sure, sounds like fun. I looked at the tour dates and said, I've never been to Uruguay before, so can cross that off the list. That's throwing it's morning coffee.
That's cool that you have a boss that's is willing to work with you like that, and actually telling you to get out there, and you'd be crazy not to do it. So that's nice to have the support from the work camp there.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. Everybody at that company has been really super supportive about that. So I'm very lucky in that aspect.
And how long did it take you to accept the invitation?
Oh, I just pretty much said, sure, that sounds cool. I mean, I informed my wife, but I can't imagine that she would have said, no, don't do that. That's crazy. So I'm pretty sure the order of things was replied and said, yeah, that sounds cool. And then went about clearing it with, the people I have to talk to here.
Awesome.
So tell us what you're most excited about with this huge opportunity.
Well, I mean, one thing that's cool is since we haven't done S.O.D for a while, it was always fun jamming with Scott and Charlie because, the other guys are cool. But remember, in Fistful of Metal, that was pre-Joey and everything like that. So those guys were kind of like, we were like the nucleus of, the early Anthrax and, of course, S.O.D, which had one guitar. So in that aspect, jamming with those guys, but also, the other dudes. I've never been on stage with Joey or anything like that. So and of course, John, the new guy, who's been very helpful with showing me riffs. So I mean, it'll be that, and also some of the stuff on Among the Living. It's real heavy, fast thrash metal. I actually have a couple of riffs I wrote on some of that stuff, so it'll be fun to actually play that stuff too. And of
Right.
course, the latter day stuff in the 90s is fun because it was actually really easy to learn because it was more kind of slow. So obviously for me, it was playing grindcore and death metal and black metal. Some of the stuff's going to be nice and easy. I have to make sure I don't start daydreaming.
You're mentioning some of the songs. Are you at liberty to mention anything off of the set list that you will be playing?
I would just say that if you look at recent Anthrax set lists, subtract a song or two and add another song or two, that would be pretty close. And as far as subtracting songs, I mean, I don't think nobody's going to be rapping on stage too much.
Gotcha. Got that
Hopefully
one.
we'll catch some deep cut like Subjugator or something like that.
That's a pretty deep fucking cut, dude. You might get something else that ends with an R.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, what's your relationship right now with Scott and Frank and Charlie and Joey and those guys? I know you recently went out to Scott's birthday party. Did you guys rekindle your relationship, or had the relationship been there all along? You just kind of getting back into it again?
Well, I mean, we've always had a relationship. It's just been more kind of like one of those off-on things because you don't really you're not traveling in the same circles or whatever. Or they're out doing something and I'm doing something else. So it was more just kind of like getting to see old friends again, catching up with them, more like Frank. I hadn't seen Frank for a long different time. I've seen Scott more recently than that, I believe. And yeah, it was a really good time going out there with my wife and celebrating his birthday and playing a few tunes. And yeah, I also had seen those guys when the fuck was that? At the No, but at the Rainbow, when we saw those guys at the Rainbow. That was at the Dio thing, right?
Yeah, we only saw Joey.
We only saw Joey, that's right. Sorry, wife's very
We're all good.
what I remember. But yeah, it might have been not since Denmark that I'd seen some of those guys. But in general, yeah, looking forward to sharing a stage with those guys, helping them out, and having some fun, playing some metal. Because I'm not really playing in the bands anymore, which is by choice. And so just getting to do occasional little forays like that, it's cool with me.
Nice.
Speaking of which, have you committed to anything outside of what was announced, or is there any long-term future plans with these guys, or just taking it by day?
Well, I mean, as far as I know, I'm just doing the 10 shows that I was asked to do, the 8 that are in Central and South America, and then the 2 US fests. I mean, it's just filling in for Frank. I want to make sure and stress that, I am
Right
not
on.
into the band, even though I formed it before him. This isn't going to be finally after 40 years, my plan, it's I'm doing my friends a favor, if that situation changes in the future, it's not going to we will not have anything to do with me taking any steps to do so. Let's put it that way.
We have
It's awesome that you're able to step in like that,
Well, I was given enough time to learn the material because even though I've heard a lot of those songs a lot of times, it was just hearing them at parties or something where you didn't have to worry about learning it. So, and the press release went out a couple of days ago, and it's almost been like made me blush, all the positive vibes about it. People are like, oh, it's gonna be great, and everything like that. But again, remember, I'm just filling in and doing my friends a favor.
Still big news,
Right.
though. I think a lot of people are looking forward to it. We have the show up in Daytona, the Rockville show, that you'll be playing at, and I think just there's a lot of talk about that show here down in Florida, and a lot of talk about you temporarily, let's say, rejoining the band. I don't want to overstep and anything like that. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's been 40 years since you played with Anthrax. Will you be performing songs off of Fistful of Metal?
I can confirm we were performing songs off Fistful of Metal. I mean, that's not many beans to spill there. They've always played metal thrashing mad. And since I already told Bill I'll be doing another song that ends in R, that would be the song before it on Fistful of Metal. Yeah, that's kind of like our one thing toward acknowledging me doing the stuff, because do a couple, that was a pretty primitive album for what Anthrax ended up progressing into. some of that having to do with my writing style. So
Well, there's
we would
definitely a big difference between that first album and then Armed and Dangerous, sound, everything wise. That first album is always going to be a classic in my point of view.
Absolutely.
It was the perfect album at the time. It was what was definitely happening. I think Anthrax kind of changed. They were still, thrashy, but that first album, especially with Neil singing and then going into Joey singing, it was very different. It was a different Anthrax, let's say. I liked them both, but that first album is just the kick ass album. Good stuff on there.
It'll always be my favorite. It's chock full of sick riffs and just killer, the leads are all bombastic and out of control. Some good headbanging parts,
Yeah,
sick
that's
stuff.
I think that's what the band, that was a reflection of the band. We were most had the Priest, Maiden, Merciful Fate kind of older metal where the influences we were still wearing them a little bit. And then I think those guys went on to find their identity and, turn into a great fucking thrash metal band, who
Absolutely.
deserves their place in the big four and whatever you want to call it. Some of us thought there should have been a Magnificent Seven, so Nuclear Assault could get in there with some other bands like Exodus, but
Hey, if
Right
you
on.
had to pick, we talk about the big four, and there's been some discussion. Who would have been the fifth band if you had to add a fifth? Who would you throw in there as the big five, let's say?
well, that's a loaded question. Do I mention a band I play in, or do I give a band like Exodus the credit they deserve, or fucking Death Angel, or whatever? So, were I to be an egotist, of course, I would mention my band, Nuclear Assault. However, we were more influenced by hardcore, so we wouldn't have technically. I don't know. That's theoretical, dude. Let's say Exodus, just so I don't seem like an asshole.
We'll take them all. There's so many you could put in that fifth spot
Right.
that fit perfectly in there.
Agreed.
Dude, you've always had a sick killer bass sound. And like on Speak English or Die, that's probably one of the sickest bass sounds in all of metal. And are you still using the same equipment or are you using completely different equipment from that era?
That album was done using a particular pedal that was actually Scott's distortion pedal, which is a TC Electronics pedal that's no longer made. Of course, they have a million emulators and use recording software. But I found a pedal I use, which is a Sansamp GT2, which is actually a guitar pedal, not a bass pedal. Because when people think of bass players using a Sansamp, they think of the classic bass driver, but which Frank actually uses. But having played as much grindcore and black metal and death metal as I have, I prefer to use something that had a little more gnarl. So I will be, I suppose this is leading to the question, are you still going to have the radical sound playing live with Anthrax, which might be a little much, which is, and I will answer that in advance. So yeah, I'm still using the same equipment. I can back off the tone a smidge for Anthrax, but it's still going to be aggressive and gnarly, and it's just going to be, it's going to fit what the band needs. But yeah, so yeah, we'll see. I bet you Night by Night I'll just start sneaking a little more distortion in. We'll see.
Quietly.
Yeah.
That's cool. You're talking about all these other bands and stuff. I was doing a little research and I came across Extra Hot Sauce
Oh God.
and Peaceville Records. Can you expand a little bit on that for me, if you could?
Well, Extra Hot Sauce was just a humorous hardcore band comprised of me and my friends from Queens, where I was actually the drummer, and I wasn't really the best drummer, but the main thing was just like trying to play really fast and having goofy songs. And at the time, I'd been in touch with Hammy from Peaceful Records because having been in Nuclear Assault, which had, as we spoke about, a hardcore age, I corresponded a lot with people from let's say, the crusty UK hardcore scene, at the time, some of whom could be, very snotty and snobby and look down on metalheads and be hypocritical, but that's a whole nother interview. But Hammy was super cool. And when I told him I was just doing a goofy hardcore band, he said, "Oh, I'd like to release that. I'll send you 500 pounds and go in the studio and do it." And I said, "Okay, we'll see what happens." And yeah, so that's the story with that. So that was not a band. I think we might have played live once and it wasn't very good. And it was just having fun with your friends.
What was the name of the album? The Taco of Death?
Yes, it was. Yeah, because it was about a restaurant we went to, a fast food place around there that would have corresponded to Jack in the Box and other localities, but it was just called Jack's here, just, plural with an apostrophe. Those were the days.
Well, dude, we're going to be doing we have a little segment on the show. It's called the Rapid Fire. It's just quick one-word answers, just whatever pops into your head. But we'd like to go through your bands, and we're going to start with Anthrax, and then move to like Nuclear Assault, and just one-word answers about what your first thought that comes to mind when you hear about these bands that going through your head again.
Really? Okay. Okay, I guess ready when you are then.
All right, well, let's start with Anthrax.
I would say youth, because it reminds me of meeting Scott when we were 16 years old. That was the first word.
Right. How about S.O.D?
S.O.D would be, I suppose, just fun. People got the wrong idea about it, that it was like racist or fascist or anything, but we were just trying to be as obnoxious and provocative as possible, which not everybody picked up on, but it definitely was a lot of fun. And it was actually fun when people misunderstood it, because if they had no sense of humor, it was, you kind of remember, I think the whole theory behind that was fuck them if they can't take a joke. So,
I mean, how could you not laugh at the lyric, passing clots the size of basketballs? How could you not get a chuckle out of that and find the humor in it?
right. Well, there was a big picture thing. People who were getting all their, feathers ruffled about Speaking of Should Die as a song or an album title would not realize that we also had a song about being hungover and not having milk in the fridge. So it really had the same relevance, which was little.
All right, Billy, you got a couple?
Nuclear Assault.
Thrash.
How about what's
Exit
the other
13.
one? Exit 13.
Exit 13. Well, how do you describe that? Groovy, but not groovy like other people think. That doesn't mean it's fucking groove metal. It's groovy grind that was very hard to describe. That was before, there was something called groove grinds in the first place. It was groovy because we acted like hippies, but we were playing grindcore.
Right
Awesome.
on.
All right,
Nocturnal
Danny.
Hellstorm.
Nocturnal Hellstorm. Well, I guess just grim. We tried to be as grim as fuck. Helped that some of us still live in a town where it's cold, I'll be down in Daytona complaining about the heat soon enough. Don't you worry.
It'll be plenty hot for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I'm just gonna roll off the plane in a thong, and that's gonna be it.
Perfect. You fit right in down here.
Oh Christ! And flip flops. Yeah.
Yep. Don't forget the flip flops is right. How
Well,
about Billy? I know you mentioned to me some bands that you threw together with Danny in Rochester, New York, and what were some of those bands that you were?
Well, my band Order the Dead played with his band Nocturnal Hellstorm. We did a bunch of shows together. And yeah, man, I mean, we've done a bunch of shows. What was the other band you were in? I can't think of the name of it at the moment.
Do you mean concurrently, like Blurring, or do you mean Crucifix before that?
That's right, Crucifix, Blurring. Yeah, you've been in a bunch of bands. We've done shows with all those bands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you can tell him, or everybody who's listening, Rochester still does have a good tight knit scene where everybody gets along, and there's just amazing the amount of talent in this scene. The guitar players, the shredders in this town, and
It really is.
Yeah, it's totally out of proportion. How many, all the fucking, the Chris Arps and Jodies and all those dudes who could just learn something in 5 minutes, or. So,
Right.
yeah, and I forgot the original fucking question. I think you guys were doing some rapid fire thing, but now we're doing
No,
this.
no, we got through that. We're all good on that one.
Okay, good.
I like the, the scene down here in Melbourne where Bill and I are living now. It's there's like a resurgence going on down here, and the amount of bands that are coming here. The punk skater scene, let's say, is really kind of taken off, and the metal scene. I've been here for 34 years now, and only I would say over the last 5 years has the scene really started to kind of take off again down here. You have
Really?
the Tampa, the St. Petersburg, and up here to Melbourne, it's like the triangle where the bands float between. You can throw Orlando into that too. A lot of good bands coming through Orlando. So, well,
No,
Danny, go ahead.
no,
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I am Nuclear Assault played in Melbourne way the fuck back in 85, 86 or something. What was that band
Really?
that Casey was in? Well, it was a strip mall or something. I mean, obviously,
Was it the Tape Deck?
uh, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, this was like 37 years ago, but I remember, playing in Melbourne because Florida being a funny state where a lot of the names of the towns are actually cities somewhere else, like Melbourne and St. Petersburg, which I've played Melbourne and St. Petersburg in fucking Australia and Russia.
Yeah, we are the sister city to Melbourne, Australia. Believe that one or not. The guy was actually from Melbourne that started from Melbourne, Australia.
Right.
Info for you there, but all right,
That's
Danny,
pretty cool.
I know you're real busy learning these songs. We're looking forward to getting up to Daytona to catch you when you guys get down here. Billy, any last questions you'd like to throw in?
Not really any questions. I just want to say congratulations and yeah, have a blast on those shows, man. And I will see you in Daytona for sure.
Thanks very much. You guys are actually the first kind of interview I've done since all that news dropped. So
Awesome.
We appreciate that. Hey, tell us your social medias where we can contact you if anybody wants to learn more about Danny Lilker or the bands or anything like that. What's your social medias for our listeners?
No, I don't have any social media.
None.
I am a true unlike, I don't know, it's not because I'm a snob or a rock star. I'm just lazy and don't interact with people. So I don't have an Instagram. I don't have a Facebook. I don't have a, what the fuck is it, X? I don't have any of that stuff. I communicate with my friends in email and text. And otherwise, I've played black metal long enough. I can pull that black metal misanthrope shit and go, no, I hate people. I don't interact. So there you go.
Well, Danny, we appreciate you joining us today for Metal Mayhem ROC. Like I said, get over to the website. You can sign up for free. This is our way of staying in touch with you, and it really helps the bottom line. So, Danny, thank you very much. Ray,
You're very welcome. Cheers,
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.